So now that we're finished up with our wiring up our enclosure, before I can actually check it out and make sure that everything is wired up correctly, I want to go ahead and wire up my stepper motors. Now, this is a NEMA 23 425 ounce stepper motor. This is a bipolar motor, meaning 2 poles. Most of the stepper motors that you'll find on eBay are bipolar or unipolar, and that is 4 wires or an 8 wire. And most of the time, if you get 8 wire stepper motors, you end up using only 4 wires anyways. You use this wire on each end, and you still end up with a bipolar stepper motor. The bipolar stepper motors are 1.8 degrees. The resolution on most modern stepper motors are 200 steps per revolution of the shaft. And so if you multiply 1.8 times 200, you'll get 360 degrees. But what I'm going to be using for my build is a 3-phase stepper motor. And hopefully you can see that here. And I actually have 3 poles. So the resolution for the particular stepper motors I'm going to be using is 1.2 degrees instead of the standard 1.8 degrees. Now this is a NEMA 34 3-phase stepper motor. That's 300 steps per revolution. So if you multiply 1.2 degrees times 300, you'll get 360. The first thing you're going to see is the actual difference in the size. This is the NEMA 23, the NEMA 34. Now, these are Leadshine stepper motors, and this is a 563 ounce stepper, and I'll be using this for my X and my Y, and then I'll be using a 906 ounce for the Z axis. Now I know I'm going to get a lot of questions on why didn't you just use a 1200 ounce that I see on eBay or a 1600 ounce. Well, the reason I chose these particular stepper motors is because of the resolution. As I said before, it's 300 steps per revolution versus your 200 steps, and 3 poles. The 3 poles is going to provide more torque, a better torque curve. It's going to be more straight up, and I think it's going to perform a lot better. Now, I based my decision on the 3-phase stepper motors on some information I read from on the internet from Tormac. Tormac did research on their stepper motors, and they also use 3-phase stepper motors. Now there are some new stepper motors out on the market. The closed loop, they have feedback to know exactly where you're at. But I didn't want to spend that amount of money on those systems, so I chose to go with this. I didn't feel like that the benefit was going to be, it was going to be beneficial for me to go with the closed loop stepper motors. How the stepper motors are wired up is going to be completely different if you are using a bipolar system, because I'm only having to hook up 3 wires in my system. But what I'm going to do is just wire these up to my connectors here, and they'll be ready to go. Now what I did was I took my cable and I ordered 50 feet of the 16 gauge 4 conductor. I used about 2 feet when I wired up inside the panel, and I'm going to use, I just split the other 48 feet or so into 4 different sections, and I'm going to use 3. So I have 3 12-foot sections, and I think that's going to be long enough. Alright, so let me get set up and we'll do some soldering of these connections. Okay, so I'm prepping for my motor connections. I've got some 3/8 heat shrink here, and it's probably I don't know, 10-11 inches long, and I've stripped back some of the wire, and I'm going to slide this over my cable, alright, like so. And then I'm going to do my black wire first. My black wire is V, and V needs to go to the white and blue wire. So these are really long, so what I've done is trim this off and twisted these together. I also slid a small piece of heat shrink over here. I'm going to peel these back and then tie these together. Just take the two, put them together, and kind of twist them like so. So that you get a nice straight line like that. I'm just going to solder that connection right there. Make sure I got a solid connection. Like that. And then I'll take the piece of solder that the skinny piece, and I'll slide that over like so. Then I'll shrink it. Okay. And then my next connection is U, and U is yellow and brown. So I'll take my yellow and brown here. It's going to go to the green here. Just gonna trim these back, strip these. Trim this one a little bit more. Trim it a little bit. Like so. Twist these together. Get a piece of the heat shrink. Slide that over. Whoops, sorry. Twist these together. Okay. Make this solder this connection. The idea is to not have this exactly where this one is. I'll try to do the red one maybe closer this way. Slide this over. There we go. Okay, now that we have that over, I'm going to heat shrink that. Like so. And then our last wire will be our red wire, which is W, and W goes to red and black. Don't be nervous about cutting these and soldering them. It's not a big deal. I've done all my builds like this. Okay, we have red. That's the last connection. Slide our heat shrink over it, hopefully. Like so. Alright, I like to stagger them that way. If something happens with the installation, they're not going to be touching if it gets crimped or anything. Now this cable, this wire right here is extra. We'll just put it up in there like so. And then the heat shrink that we slid over earlier, we're going to slide over this, hopefully. We can. Makes for a good tight connection. Now they already have some kind of vinyl piece right here. If I can get that over it, I would like to do that. Okay. Looks like I got it over most of it. You can see that. So I'm going to shrink this. Okay, I'm going to take about 6 inches of this 1/2 inch wide. Okay, so I'm going to take about a 6-inch strip of this 1/2 inch heat shrink. And also slide it on here. And go all the way up as far as I can get it. Now that's not going to really prevent any liquid, water, coolant from getting down in the motor. That's just more of that's just going to be more for, you know, strain relief if it's bending. But that should be good. I'll wire tie this to my mount. Once I get that all figured out, this will be wired tied to my mount, and this right here will not be on any kind of stress. Now that I have the motor side wired up, I'm going to wire up the aviation plug. So let's do that now. So these aviation plugs unscrew, which is kind of nice. So I just need to slide this over my wire. And I'm also going to slide some heat shrink over. I got a 4-inch piece of the 1/4 inch. Okay, so I'm going to wire this aviation plug like this. Here is my indicator right there. So I'm going to put the green wire right here on pin 3. Again, this is plastic here, so be careful. Okay, green wire, pin 3. And then the next wire is our black wire right here. All right. Okay. And then last we have our red wire, and that goes directly underneath. Okay, red wire. Okay. So that takes care of our pins, and it should look like that. Match up. Okay. And got my heat shrink here. I'll clip this wire back. It's just an extra one just in case we need one in the future. And if we do, then I'll just clip this off and put a new connector on. I can slide that over my pins. Takes care of that. And we just screw this back on. Like so. And then tighten this up. Okay. All right. Cable's a little small for that connector, but it should be okay. Okay, so we one down and 2 more to go. So thanks for watching the video. Please feel free to comment if you have any questions. Thumbs up if you liked the video. Please subscribe, and most importantly, be safe.